Public participation, Dr. Joyner and Dr. White.
Yay, I'm ready, Dr. White, if you are.
I am too.
Okay, so we're asking that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. When I get to 3 minutes, I will say time, and you should complete your sentence. You're ready.
Okay. Our first speaker is Highcliffe Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all on this beautiful sunny day in New Haven, Connecticut. I wish we were outside just having this beautiful meeting, gathering together, but here we are cooped up inside. So I wanted to draw your attention today to House Bill number 6881. So last month, the State Legislators Education Committee referred House Bill number 6881, which would require significant investment in Connecticut's public school paraprofessionals. They referred it to the Appropriates Committee, and this bill, along with other things, will require the establishment of a grant program to supplement teacher and paraprofessional salaries. Great. Establish a minimum salary for teachers and paraprofessional. Excellent. Require boards of education to offer the municipal employee health insurance plan to paraprofessionals. Superb. Pay the employee contribution required under a retirement system. It would also require the state to pay at least 50% of the cost of Board of Education for providing the municipal employee health insurance plan and for paying the employee contribution for retirement benefits. Excellent. If approved, this bill will vastly improve the teaching profession by attracting well-qualified paraprofessionals to get the hands-on teaching experience with a trajectory to become certified teachers or just strengthen teacher support in the classrooms. We have worked tirelessly to support our students and deserve to make living wages. We should have one job to live decently and keep a healthy mind to carry out our job responsibilities. Our students are our future, and we deserve the best public school education. It behooves us to act today, to act now, and to act immediately to support this bill, HB 6881. So share this with your friends, your families, your associates, but most of all, please ask your state legislators to support this bill, HB 6881. Thank you kindly, and looking forward to your support on this.
Next speaker is Andreas. Please state your full name when you come into the room. Andreas.
Hello, hi, yes. My name is Andreas Silma out of New Haven. I just want to briefly touch on really quickly about the masking that's still, everyone can hear me, right? Okay. Yeah, so briefly, last time I stated how the White House's COVID-19 response coordinator, Dr. Ashish Jha, said there's no study in the world that shows that masks work that well. So you're never going to get the kind of benefit from mandatory year-round masking as you would from making substantial improvements in indoor air quality. There's just one new study that I wanted to talk about. It's a peer-reviewed study published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. It's called "Is a Mask That Covers the Mouth and Nose Free from Undesirable Side Effects in Everyday Use and Free of Potential Hazards?" The conclusions from the study states, our review of the literature shows that both healthy and sick people can experience mask-induced exhaustion syndrome, which with typical changes in symptoms that are often observed in combination, such as increase in breathing dead space volume, increase in breathing resistance, increase in blood carbon dioxide, decrease in blood oxygen saturation, increase in heart rate, increase in blood pressure, decrease in cardiopulmonary capacity, increase in respiratory rates, shortness of breath and difficulty breathing, headache, dizziness, feeling hot and clammy, decreased ability to concentrate, decreased ability to think, drowsiness, decrease in empathy perception, impaired skin barrier function with itching, acne, skin lesions and irritation, and overall perceived fatigue and exhaustion. The described mask-related changes in respiratory physiology can have an adverse effect on the wearer's blood gas subclinically, and in some cases also clinically manifest, and therefore have a negative effect on the basis of all aerobic life, internal and internal respiration, with an influence on a wide variety of organ systems and metabolic processes, with physical and psychological and social consequences for an individual human being. There's a doctor out of Germany, Dr. Marguerite Brisson. This is another thing now. MD, PhD, and is a consultant neurologist and with a PhD in pharmacology out of Germany. And she says the human brain is very sensitive to oxygen deprivation. Cells in the hippocampus can't be without oxygen longer than 3 minutes, and there is no science supporting masking. I believe that the New Haven Board of Ed is responsible for what you yourselves think, not the media. You're responsible for what you do, not the state or New Haven Health Department. I'm independent. I'm not Democrat or Republican. And I believe no matter what your party is, you should be following the real science and not political science. I have a request that you guys put a motion on the table to vote to allow students and families and staff to have a choice on masking. I can almost guarantee that masking or mandated masking in one way or another is harming the learning and behavior for students and staff, and it's going to have a negative consequence. I know I have 10 more seconds. I'm recording myself. Please put a motion on the table. The governor is not mandated masking, and you guys should be able to have your own decision making and bring in someone to give you science. Thank you.
I'd like to remind the speakers that there's only one official timekeeper. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tony Criscolo. Ms. Criscolo, you may begin.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am a teacher in New Haven Public Schools, ESUMS. I'm very happy to be following this speaker talking about detrimental effects of policies on students and staff. I'd like to bring something to your attention, even though it's vacation week. I want to say that I think we are going to sorely regret the policies that we have permitted in New Haven Public Schools that have allowed for the 24/7 day in, day out use of cell phones by our students. If you come to visit our schools, and I encourage you to do so, you would find an addiction amongst the students and a good number of the staff too, to tell you the truth, that is making it impossible to teach, to learn, to listen, to absorb, to pay attention, to interact. I am seeing it every day in school. It is, if these are the people in the future, our hope that they're going to be tending to my bank account, to my oxygen machine, to my appendix, and they can't pay attention for more than 5 minutes without looking at their phone and scrolling constantly from place to place, we are in a lot of trouble. I believe, as far as my understanding, and it might be unclear, I think the policy in New Haven with regard to cell phones and technology, if it is not what it should be, I wish that this board and Dr. Tracy and the new superintendent could put their heads together. Please, please take the phones away from the students and most of the teachers and let people learn and let people teach. We are going to pay for it. The students are going to pay for it most. And that breaks my heart to see this happening every day. But thank you in the meantime for all that you do. And I hope that we will see you around our schools anytime.
Madam President, that concludes the public raised hands. We do have one panelist hand raised. Mr. Golson, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I wasn't raising my hand to speak. I was actually raising my hand to ask a question as a result of what we just heard, Madam President.
Go ahead, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you. I'm confused. I want to make sure, I thought I got the answer to this at the last meeting, or we got the answer to this at the last meeting. I'm confused by the second speaker regarding masking. I thought we didn't have mandatory masking in the school system anymore.
We don't.
We do
Okay.
not.
We don't.
Okay, all right. The second point of question I'd like to ask is related to the last speaker, and that is, I don't know what the cell phone policy is in the school system. I'd like to know what it is. So if staff could forward that to us in the near future. I mean, I don't know if there's a real problem, but I'll certainly like to know what the policy is. So if staff would be, if the superintendent could direct staff to send, I want a copy. I don't know if anybody else does, but if
I would like to have it as well.
if she could send it to the staff, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Madam President.
Awesome. Sorry. Oh, I thought it was. Sorry about that. I'm having the roof replaced and somebody needed to go up to the attic and the attic door is right behind me, so. Okay, yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Also, I don't see that the second speaker is still on. I looked really quick through the participant list. Can someone reach out to him and let him know that there is no longer a mask mandate so that he doesn't spend so much time doing research?
If anyone knows who he is, I already looked in Power School. I could not find him by the name that he stated, the last name. So if anyone is aware of who he is, or if he hears the broadcast, please email me and I will go forward from there. paul.white@new-haven.k12.ct.us. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. White. All right, so we'll move on to the action items. Personnel report, Dr. Tracy.
Oh, I was muted, talking and muted. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying the good weather that is out there. It's about 60-something degrees. So I hope you've gone outside to enjoy some of that fresh air and sunshine. I have 2 promotional appointments and about 1, 2, 3, 4 new teachers, psychologists or teachers who have signed on to work with us, and some paraprofessionals. And so we find that the bleeding is coming down to some extent. We still have teachers leaving, resigning for whatever reason. We can't stop that. But I know that last time we had a very great recruitment fair. I'm not sure what has come out of that, but I know that people were there seeking for jobs in all sectors of the organization. With that said, I am asking the board to accept the appointments that are here on these action items. Thank you.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you. I move that we approve the action items of the superintendent's personnel report.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Any discussion? Dr. Joyner?
Madam Chair, I have a real problem with the position Director of Assessment and Evaluation. And I would respectfully ask the board to move that appointment until we hire a new superintendent. There's some things that I would not like to discuss in the open about the particular position or the person, and I won't. But I believe that we're close enough to the end of the year so that the new superintendent can choose his or her own person in that position. That's a very, very important position because that position is the face of the district in terms of communicating accurate data, analyzing information, and evaluating our programs. And I don't believe we have used enough. First of all, I think that person should be appointed by whomever runs the district at the end of Dr. Tracy's tenure. And I would respectfully ask the board to not vote on that position tonight and allow the upcoming superintendent to choose his or her choice in that position.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Dr. Benitez?
I agree with Dr. Joyner in terms of that position. I am not suggesting we totally not do anything. I would be more comfortable if we do something with that, that is an interim position. Just concerned that that's a very important position for reporting and all that. So I understand we need it. But also we want to make sure that that is something that the leadership that comes next can make that decision.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Mr. Golson?
Thank you, Madam President. Before I comment on that, I would like to hear from the administration as to the process that was used to hire or to recommend this person for this position. Is HR or is Dr. Tracy available to give us a kind of very quick background information on how this occurred, how long it took to go through that process?
Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Tracy?
So,
And then I'd like to complete my statement after
thank
she
you.
makes her.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Golson. So in any of our hiring, we have teams of people from my team, along with the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction Assessment and others who have done what they call a resume cut of both internal and external candidates. Then they carry out an interview process. From that process, they're to recommend 2 individuals to me. They recommended 2 individuals. I met with both individuals and decided that this individual was a better fit for our district in terms of understanding the system, the evaluation systems that we have in place, in terms of understanding Power School and some of the reporting that we have to do with the state. I need to say this very publicly, that leaving this crucial position until the new superintendent comes, that new superintendent is starting, I'm still on post until June 30th. This new superintendent is coming July 1st. Starting July 1st, there's a lot of reporting that has to be done with the state. Dr. Sherman is out totally June 30th. She will not be doing that work. So having someone who understands the internal processes, by the way, this is not a position that's going to be dealing with data and data analysis. That's why I moved it from director to supervisor. So we have broken up the position that we're now looking for someone who would be our data manager and analyst who will take up that type of role. So this individual who we are hiring understand the process. This person not involved in all that data reporting and all these different things that's going on. More crucial to this are the state reporting and managing the evaluation system for over more than 1,900, or I would say over 2,000 workers in the system. So I just need to say this, leaving this, it's not a cabinet position. An assistant principal, a supervisor position is like any other supervisor position. It's not a cabinet position. I agree that any cabinet position should be left for the new superintendent. This is not a cabinet position.
I want to make sure I understand what you just said, Dr. Tracy. I think I heard you say that you took one position that Dr. Sherman, is it Dr. Sherman?
Yes.
That Dr. Sherman was filling, and you're splitting that into 2 different positions.
Yes.
One that you haven't hired yet, which is mainly the data manipulation.
Yes.
To put it in a not so nice way, but and the second position the one that we're doing tonight is dealing with providing information, the information that we have to provide to the state on a regular basis, as well as something around evaluations.
Yes.
I'm assuming this is all staff evaluations. This person does what related to the evaluation?
They monitor the staff evaluation, which is called Talent Ed on Power School System. They would send reports out to even us, whether or not we have completed the evaluations, because you have to report the evaluations to the state also. So
Okay.
they would monitor that. They would sit as a go-between with principals and teachers who may have concerns about their goal setting, and talk around pacifying that goal setting to make sure that it's agreed upon by both parties before their goals are set. So any controversy around that, they would work through with that. So it's managing this whole talent ed system, along with when there's testing to be done, they are like coordinating that testing with the test coordinators in the buildings.
All right, I'd like to ask one more question. The second part of the position that you're not hiring at this point, could you give us a reason why you're not hiring that? Have you drafted that? Are you waiting for us to approve that?
No, we have
out to
not.
bid?
We have not put forth any candidates for that position as of now.
So that'll probably wait for the
That could wait, but still, I guess, it's not a cabinet position. The reason why we have not put forth any candidate is that when the candidates came up to me, I didn't see the level of background they have to handle that type of position.
Got it. Okay. So you may or may not make a recommendation to us before the new superintendent comes on. You're not sure yet.
Yes.
So, okay, got it. All right. So I am at this point. Let me ask one more question. In terms of Dr. Benitez's suggestion that maybe we can make it an interim, how does that affect, is that a possibility based on the fact that this is a union? This is a union position, I guess.
It's a union position, yes.
So making it interim is that's not within the realm of possibility at this point because it's a union position, or we could do that.
I don't see the sense in making an interim at this juncture. It's similar to any supervisor or principal position.
Okay.
So if you're going to do, yes. So if you're going to, supervisors and principals are on the same level in terms of that lateral level. They're on the same level.
All right, so I'm done with the questions, so I'm going to make my comment, and then I'm going to give up the floor. We have consistently said on this board that we will support the superintendent's suggestions and recommendations related to managing the organization. We have consistently said we're not managers. We set policy. Superintendent follows that policy and manages the organization. I'm going to stick with that that suggested route that we have been using all this time, and I'm going to support the superintendent's suggestion that we hire this position. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Mr. Wilcox and then Dr. Joyner.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief because Mr. Goldson asked a couple of the questions that I had, and so I heard those answers. And so, excuse me, I'm going to be voting in support of this position for some of the rationale that Mr. Goldson just mentioned, but also because if I had an issue with one of the the promotional appointments, I think it's just a better practice if we have these conversations with the superintendent, or if the superintendent's unwilling to listen to our conversations, to have it with the board president and others in order to have things not be on an agenda, not have the individual in question probably in the audience, not have somebody waiting to speak, not have somebody that might have their family members there present. I just don't agree with the practice, and so I'm not going to support it, and I'll be voting to approve this person if I get the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Really quick, Dr. Joyner, since I haven't spoken on this item yet.
Why don't you speak, and then, because I may not be quick, so why don't you speak?
I am. Thank you. I'm also going to be supporting the appointment of this candidate for the same reasons. We've said that we would support the superintendent in her recommendations for the most part. And I'm going to continue with that practice. And also, I feel that anything below cabinet level positions, I think it's I think we actually need those positions to be filled before the new superintendent comes on. I don't see where I would think that I would make an exception there, other than, like I said, cabinet level positions. Go ahead, Dr. Joyner.
I did have a conversation with Dr. Tracy. And I explained to her why I felt that it wasn't prudent for this appointment at this time. And it has to do with ethics. And she decided she was going to go ahead and do it anyway. And I thought I had the kind of relationship with her where I could have a conversation. I thought that she trusted my professional judgment. And she is as aware of the ethical issue as I am. But I'm a team player. And if this board and this infinite wisdom believes that this is the right thing to do, without looking into that, then what I will do is recuse myself from the vote. And I'm not going to create any problems. But I did have the conversation with Dr. Tracy, and I also communicated to other board members. I have to protect my professional reputation as well, particularly at this age in my life. So I had that. As I do with all of her appointments, I let her know how I feel. She lets me know how she feels. And this is the very first time that I have ever opposed anyone that she's appointed. But as my father used to say, you'll understand it better by and by. And you can decide whether or not you made a good decision tonight. And that's all I have to say about the matter, and I yield the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Dr. Benitez?
Yeah, I am going to vote for the recommendation. I am only concerned that we have, for the last year, been complaining about how we have not gotten the right information. We have not in this area, and we are now promoting a person who's in that area. I am just concerned about that. I just want it noted. And by the way, the question about can we have interim people in the union? We do. We just made a position for someone that was an interim. So it's not something we have not done. It's a common practice in this district. But if you all feel that this is good, I am even surprised that Mr. Bolson is voting yes on this one, because he's the one who has made me aware of the lack of information that we need and we request and all this. But again, I'm going to vote with you guys. I don't have a particular problem with the specific person. I just have a problem with what we've been dealing for the last year or so, and we're going to do this, but that's good. No other comments on this.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Mr. Goldston?
Madam President, I just want to go on the record. I am not one of the board members that Dr. Joyner has spoken to, so I'm not quite sure what his issues may be with this candidate. I am a little concerned that this word ethics was thrown out there without any real substance to it. I don't know what it means, and it kind of damages someone without, I'm just uncomfortable with the way that was thrown out there without any real description. I mean, if there's a real issue, that I think Dr. Jordan would have spoke to all of us and not just to, I know he didn't speak to me. So on the record, I have not been spoken to. In terms of the concern about not getting good information, absolutely agree with Dr. Benitez. That has been a huge concern of mine. And I know other board members that we have gotten information that was not accurate, that was not complete. The state has gotten that also. And I'm kind of, I'm happy to see that Dr. Tracy has seen that and has decided to split this position so that there's one position that's focused only on collecting and reporting on the data, and then another position which is doing this other stuff, the one that we're voting on tonight. I think that's a step in the right direction. I am not an advocate for adding the central office. Everybody knows that. But data collection and reporting is super important, not just for us, but for our funding sources. So if this is what we have to do to fix the problem, then I absolutely support it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Okay, see no further discussion, we'll vote to approve the action items on the personnel report. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Recuse.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez. Dr. Benitez,
Is she frozen?
you're muted or frozen, Dr.
I think
Benitez.
she's frozen.
Ms. Roman, she's still on?
No.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Cruz Bustamante,
No.
What was that?
Bustamante?
No.
No. And Dr. Benitez, are you on? Nope. Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so with for.
Madam
Dr.
President?
Dr.
Madam-
Yarborough?
Madam President?
Recused.
Okay,
Madam President, it looks like Dr. Benitez left, so could we hold the vote for hold it open for a few minutes for her to come back on?
sure.
Maybe we could come back to it once she gets back on.
I don't, Attorney Alexialis isn't here to let me know if that's okay to do or not, so we'll do it today, but I don't know, we'll see.
I see it, I see it in Congress all the time.
There she
And then it hold-
Coming back on there. Dr. Benitez, how do you vote on the personnel item?
Yes, yes.
You? And so that item passes. And so we'll move on to the next item. Local 24 choice sick leave MOU. Dr. Tracy?
What was that? Oh. So, yeah, that's a personal report. Thank you. What did you ask again?
Did you want anyone to speak? I see Ms. Haka is on. I don't know if Mr. Wen is on.
Mr. Wynn is out of the country at this moment, so
Okay,
he won't be speaking tonight.
and Ms. Haka?
Miss Haka.
Yes.
I'm
I see
sorry
that
about
he's on and you
Haka.
normally have
Haka
him
would get
speak.
on my case. Haka, I've watched Haka for a couple of years now. I actually made her assistant principal when she was at John Martinez, watched her growth, moved her to Hill Central where she has served well. And now that the position comes open up for Truman School, I see where Haka will fit in very well at Truman School. She did a great job in the interviews that my team put on, and she was also among another candidate that was sent up to my level for interview. And then we decided to recommend Haka. Very full of energy, very dedicated to her work, and her resume also speaks for itself. Haka, will you come on, bring in Haka to say something? Where's
He's
Haka?
on.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy.
I always call her Jaka.
I know, I forgive you. I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to collaborating with everyone to make Truman a wonderful place, a place where children want to come and learn, a place where teachers want to come and teach. So again, I'm looking forward to collaborating with you guys, with the board, with the families, with the students, with the teachers, in order to make that a reality and to make sure that our children are moving forward academically and socially and emotionally as well. Again, just thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I won't let you down.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, Dr. Tracy?
Okay, so now we're moving into some possible actions. Dr. White, have you seen Taryn on here, or is it Lisa you're filling in for Taryn? And this
Lisa is
MOU?
here and Taryn's in the audience. I'll promote Taryn.
Okay, please promote Taryn to talk about the other item, please. The MOU between the New Haven Board of Ed and United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, Local 24. Go ahead, Taryn, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, I'm going to take that as a yes. So
Yes.
I am the labor relations manager for the district. I can provide some context for the item that you guys have before you for consideration. About a year ago, our trades union brought a concern to the Human Resources Office with regards to sick leave for 4 of their members. It was discovered that there was an error in how sick leave was being accrued for 4 of the members. Payroll noticed the error and then corrected it. And in doing so, they removed a certain number of sick days from each of 4 affected tradesmen. So once the union brought it to our attention in a good faith effort, we, sat down and came up with a resolution that would be amicable for everyone. And this MOU captures the terms that we would like for the board to consider signing off on. So ultimately, the agreement gives all 4 of the affected tradesmen back the sick leave that was taken away from them when the error was identified, with the understanding that the tradesmen can only use those sick days for sick leave purposes. If they leave the district, they cannot cash those days in. They hold no monetary value. And ultimately, if and when they leave the district, that they forfeit any time that sick time that they have accrued because of this agreement. Going forward, as of January 1st, 2024, these 4 affected tradesmen will accrue sick time in accordance with their collective bargaining agreement, which ultimately allows them to have access to 7 sick days, use them or lose them within the year. So that's the context behind the agreement that we're looking for the board to sign. And it's, like I mentioned, to bring these 4 affected tradesmen back into good standing to receive the sick days or the sick time that was removed due to an error. Any questions I might be able to answer?
Dr. Joyner?
Actually, I just want to comment when we get ready to make a decision. So I don't know if this is the right time.
No, there needs to be a motion, I think. Mr. Goldman?
Can't hear you.
You're muted, Mr. Goldman.
I have some questions, but I guess I can wait until a motion is made to ask them, I guess. I'll move the item.
I second the motion.
Okay. So now I have a question. I'm still not quite, there's a lot of whereases and sections here and sections there and here. So it's real confusing to me. I think what I heard was 4 employees somehow got left out of being able to accrue sick time. How did that happen? And how much sick time are we talking about? Are we giving them back sick time that they were not able to accrue, or are they just accruing sick time moving forward? And if we didn't approve this, would this mean that they're not able to accrue sick time at all? Or is this an addition to what other sick time they're already able to accrue? So I'm real confused about what's happening here. So I guess the first question is, how did they get left out of being able to accrue sick time? And the second question is, is this retroactive? And if so, until when? I did hear that they can't cash in their sick time. Is that for everybody in this union, or is it just for these 4 employees? So I have 3 questions just to start off with.
All right, I will try my best to answer all 3. And I think if I give a bit more context, it might be a little clearer. So as of, I believe the date is 2007, any individual hired into the trades union accrued sick time in a particular way. So they accrued sick time 56 hours per year. If they used them within that year, great. If they did not, they will forfeit them. So these 4 individuals, when they were hired, they were incorrectly put on a table for how they accrued sick time. They were incorrectly put on a table where they accrued 1.25 days of sick time in a particular month. So they ultimately were given more sick time than they should have gotten per their contract. The payroll department noticed this error probably 2 to 3 years after it had come about and attempted to correct the error. And correcting it, it removed the additional sick days that these individuals had in their accrual bank. So this MOU is to correct that error by giving them back the sick hours that were taken from their accrual bank. Even though we understand that it was done in error, that these individuals weren't technically, due this additional time, but in a good faith effort, because the error was on, the city or the board's part, we didn't want to negatively affect the individuals by stripping all this time away. So they are getting sick time that they had already accrued, and going forward, the expectation is they're going to adhere to their collective bargaining agreement, which is they are to get 7 days on January 1st, and they have to use them by the end of that calendar year. So is this going retroactive? Yes, it is, but it's going retroactive back to the date that the time was removed. And the last question, there was a third one, and I am forgetting what it is.
I forgot what it was. That's why I didn't.
I think it was, does it affect the whole union? I think you asked the question about.
Okay, thank you so much. So it doesn't affect the entire union. It only affects these 4 individuals because they were hired after a date in the contract that their contract language changed. So these are the only 4 individuals in this entire unit that have been affected by, this adjustment.
So no other member could make a claim that that they should be getting the same treatment that these 4 got?
No.
And the time that we're giving them back, they have to use by when?
By the time they separate from the district. So it will not go away until they resign, retire, or until they separate from the district.
And how much is this? How many days are we talking about, and how much is this costing the district at the end of the day? Because these guys may never get sick ever again before they retire, and we have to pay that out when they leave. So what kind of a payout do we have to make if they didn't use any of their accrued sick time? Because they're still earning those 7 days, right?
Yes, but at the end of the calendar year, they lose them. So if they don't use the 7, they lose them. And as far as payout,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And as far as payout, their contract doesn't allow for a payout. So once they leave, they forfeit access to the sick days. So there isn't an additional financial cost to the city or to the board once they leave. So if one, sorry.
But it is, right? I mean, if they have 100 accrued sick days and they decide they're going to quit, they could take those sick days till they end up quitting. That means somebody else. Not only do we have to pay them for that, but then somebody has to cover their shift. So at the end of the day, it's still costing us additional money, right?
the cost is on the day itself. So if one of these individuals calls out sick, yes, we would cover their wages for that particular day. But if you know, they decide that they're retiring as of June 30th, 2023, we don't have to pay them out what's on the books once they decide to retire.
All right, let me just ask one more question. Is this the best deal we could have got? I mean, could we have like given them half of their accrued time? Or I mean, why did we just say we're going to give them everything and not getting anything in return? I don't understand the logic behind that. I particularly don't understand it because I don't know how many days we're talking about. If I had a sense of the cost, then I might say, okay, it's only 10 days between the 4 guys, no big, for the 4 people, no big deal, let it go. But this could be hundreds of days and thousands of dollars, and we don't have any idea what it is at this point.
I haven't been provided with the packet that was provided to the board members, but within the actual MOU, I believe, and I don't have it in front of me, I believe on page 2, it specifically identifies the hours for the 4 affected members.
It does.
So that'll give you the sense of the hours for each individual.
Those are hours. One of them has 814 hours. What does that represent? Like 10 weeks or something? No. How many hours a week are there? 35 or 40?
For the tradesmen, I believe they're at 40. And I'm going to pull up a calculator and try and answer that question for you.
That's like what, 20 days or something?
Did I get kicked out?
Yeah.
I'm still here. Sorry.
You couldn't get off that easily.
Oh,
we're not kicking you out.
So 800 hours, yes, it would be about 20 weeks of vacation. So.
Wow. Wow. What happens if we don't approve this MOU? That's my last question, by the way, everybody. What happens if we don't approve it?
Oh, speculate. You want me to speculate?
I mean, I'm assuming attorneys were involved in this and they said, if you do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this might happen. What might happen? Do they take us to some sort of, do they file a complaint? Do they take us to court? What is the options that they have?
They can proceed with filing. They've technically already filed a grievance. We would take the position that this isn't grievable because it's not something that was spelled out in their particular contract. However, they would still have recourse. It could go to the state labor board, and ultimately the decision might not be in our hands. We could go back to the table and renegotiate if that's something that we could do.
I'm not suggesting any of that at this point. I just want to know what the options were. Thank you very much, Ms. Palmer.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Galton. Dr. Joyner?
I'm assuming that Dr. Tracy and her staff have read this, and Taryn has done, in my opinion, a very good job of explaining it, particularly when you look at Section 3, when it says that the employees will not be granted any form of credit or payout for their accrued sick time as of the date of their separation from employment, regardless of the reason for such separation. So I believe that if we can trust Dr. Tracy to recommend staff, we can also trust her to recommend matters like this. Ms. Bonner has been more clear and explicit. It's one of the most clear and explicit explanations I've had for a pretty complicated document since I've been on the board. And I commend her for her work, as well as that of her boss, in crafting this memorandum of understanding. New Haven has led the nation in trying to treat working class people respectfully. And we're the ones that made the mistake. And I think that it's only fair that we provide a just remedy for the people who were on the other end of the mistake. And I would strongly ask the board to support Dr. Tracy's recommendation and the Human Resources Department recommendations to give these men some compensation for an error that we made in the first place.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you very much. I will agree it is kind of complicated when you going through the paperwork and listen to the explanation. Thank you, Ms. Bonner, for the continued explanations to help us try to understand this. I'm out of town right now. I have a family member who's extremely ill. If this family member had earned some sick time, I would hope that the organization for which they worked would be honoring that and trying to make this right. I appreciate the language that says that this is not a cash out thing, that it, but if the people in our employ need the sick time which they've earned, I'm certainly going to support them in receiving that. So thanks everyone. And then I also think that this is it's a good thing when the administration and various union leadership work together to try to come up with solutions through these MOUs and things, because there is a lot of detailed issues. And so I'm glad that I'm always happy when we're trying to work together on those. And I'm in full support of people receiving every minute of sick time, which they've earned. Someone with 800 hours of sick time shows me somebody who must have worked for the district for quite a while, who is not calling out sick, who is working hard. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Goldson and then Ms. Mason. Ms. Ten, are you needing clarification?
Yes.
Okay,
She good?
I don't know. Ms. Mason?
Yes, thank you, President Rivera. Can you have Mr. Golson and Dr. Joyner go back through that last motion for language?
Mr. Golson made it, I seconded it.
Yeah, I just made a motion to approve.
Yeah, to approve the memorandum of understanding.
Right.
Thank
Local
you.
24 trade sick leave MOU.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I think Ms. Bonner did an excellent job of explaining this. I didn't understand it when I first read it. Now I do. I believe, and maybe she can correct me if I'm wrong. I hope she does. I believe that these gentlemen, while accruing sick time, were still able to take those 7 days a year that everybody else was taking. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
So the idea that they never took any time off may not be correct, because they could have taken those 7 sick days and the computer was still accruing these other sick days for them, or whoever downtown was doing it. Correct?
It's possible that they used sick time even after, the error was identified.
Yeah. Thank you. Listen, I'm a supporter of the working man. I've always been advocating here for taking care of the folks that are on the front line, doing what they do. But this is taxpayers' money, and I feel real uncomfortable having this kind of agreement for these 4 gentlemen because of this mistake that was made. There's no harm to them if they did not get the accrued time, because by contract they didn't deserve it in the first place. So to suggest that we're taking something away from them that they earned, they didn't earn it. Otherwise, everybody else on the contract earned the same sick time that they did. They just didn't get lucky enough for somebody to make the mistake for them. So I'm going to, even though I understand the arguments of backing the working man and providing them with sick time, I understand Mr. Wilcox argument. I mean, everybody knows I just came out of a long-term sickness. I understand the importance of having that time, but we have contracts for a reason. And contracts and union contracts are designed to treat everybody the same, treat everybody fairly. And all of the other members of this union are not being treated the same when we give these guys this benefit because somebody made an accounting error. So I'm gonna have to vote against this, unfortunately. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on whether or not to approve the local 24 trades sick leave MOU. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Abstain.
It's your motion.
I know. I'm voting no. Voting no. I'm cutting my throat voting against the union, but it's just not fair to the other members. No.
okay. Mr. Cruz Bustamante still on? Yes.
Yes.
Your vote is yes or? Okay,
The vote is yes.
thank you. Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so that item passes. Local 3429 summer fund.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Madam President. Just so you know, I'm here in the mayor's office, although I'm in his conference room, because I have a conflict also with the Board of Alders meeting going on. I have to go in there to defend something. They have called me, I asked them to put the item a little later so that I can finish this. So this is the
Madam President, point of order, Madam President.
Mr. Bolton,
Dr. Tracy, is the mayor there? Inquiring minds like to know.
I don't know if he's in his office. I'm in his conference room. So
Very
that I can't say.
diplomatic answer.
I
Thank
was
you.
let in his conference room, so I can't tell. He could be very well in his office doing his thing. Okay, 3429, Darnell, you're too inquisitive. 3429 and 933, we've brought this, but we had them together. The last 2 years we brought them about summer school and paying the teachers, the paras, $25 for summer school hours. That's for local 3429. So if you want to deal with that separately, vote for that. It's just the same thing we're continuing for this summer. We want to start hiring people now for summer school.
okay. Mr. Bolton? You're muted.
I think for clarity, I think we should move both of these separately. So I'll move the first one on the agenda, the MOU for 3429.
Yes.
Second.
Now I have a question, Madam President.
Go ahead.
We just did 3429, which is the paraprofessionals, right?
Mhm. So discussion on
Right.
the-
That's the first one I need to, okay. Is this the same rate that they're getting now for the after school program, or is this a different
Yes.
rate?
Yes, same rate for the after school program.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, the sun is in my face.
I sent it over your way, Dr. Tracy. Okay, seeing no further discussion on this item, we'll go to approve the MOU with local 3429. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Cruz Bustamante, I think he left. Yep, he left. Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so that item passes. Next is local 933.
Okay,
Madam
so-
President, I'll move that item.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the local 933 Summer Fund 2023 MOU. Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, and so that item passes. Discussion and possible action on the 10-month calendar, Dr. Tracy?
Okay, so I present to you the 10-month calendar that the teachers union have ratified with their staff members. This is putting us to June 14th, and they're selecting the same time in terms of February break as they did this year. So this is the calendar that we're asking the board to vote on for this year.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I move that we approve the calendar presented to us.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. I only have one question. Did we make sure we hand counted the dates?
Oh, God.
Yes, we did. Several people made sure they could count.
Okay.
And so they counted it. Yes, Mr. Golson, we made sure
I didn't go there.
I asked it.
we made sure we deliberately sat down and counted to make sure we have 182 student days, 186 teachers days. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the 10-month calendar. Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Golton,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. So that item passes. And moving on to 3000 policy series, 3000 series.
So before, may I ask to be excused so I can go to the Board of Auditors meeting? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mayor Elicker?
I was just waving to Dr. Tracy from
Oh.
my office.
Okay.
All right, I think this is you, Dr. Benitez.
Yes, yes. So we are asking that the board considers to adopt those items from the series, those policies from the series 3000 that are were in front of them for second reading. If we have any specific questions about these ones, I would like Mr. Wilcox to help us with that.
Okay. Is there a
So
motion?
we need a, yes, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I move that we approve these policies in front of us, which I could read. It's policy 3000, 3010, 3110, 3120, 3150, 3543.31, the policy and the regulation, and 3560. I think I got them all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Golton and then Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you, Madam. This house could take over and walk us through it, but this doesn't a second reading. I'm assuming we got this in our packages last time. I have to admit I missed it, and I have to apologize for that. I probably will abstain this evening because I just haven't had a chance to absorb it. But it's not that I'm against it. I just haven't had a chance to review it. Thank you.
Mr. Golton, Mr. Wilcox.
So just as background, as people know, the Finance and Operations Committee, we're systematically going through all the Series 3000 policies. This is one of the first groups of them that we've sent on to the Governance Committee, which then took a look at it and chose to bring it before the board. If you take a look at some of these, you'll see that these are not particularly controversial at all. Encompasses things like some basic definitions about the roles for budgets and and operational, non-instruction operations. It establishes some things just like what our budget year is, the process of adopting the budget, the requirement remains that there's public meetings. The base of these was the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education model policies that we then took a look at those, adapted them to meet our needs. Often, just the basic changes are listed there in red. You'll see that we're changing things like the municipalities or the town's fiscal authority, and we're changing that to Board of Alders or things that make it relevant to New Haven. So as is typical, changes that are different from the CABE model policy is marked in red. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mayor Elicker?
Sure, thanks. I'd encourage Mr. Goldson, if he has a moment, just to flip through it real quick in the packets. The track changes are easy and they're not significant. So, obviously it's up to you whether you feel comfortable with it. But just want to say thanks to Mr. Wilcox for his work on this. It's nice to have us working to tighten up policies, pay a lot of attention to detail, and appreciate his work there.
Mr. Wilcox?
I'll just say it's not just me, it's the Finance and Operations Committee, and there's also several administrators that work on these when we're covering things in their areas of authority or their areas of responsibility. So it is a group effort, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. It is pretty straightforward and easy to read. My only concern from a quick run through of it is that this document makes it seem as though our budget is only driven by what we get from the Board of Alders. It doesn't have anything in here related to other funding that we get, both state, federal, and private. It just references the Board of Alders a couple of times, says that our budget will be.
It's source of revenue.
Dr. Benitez, you're not on mute.
Actually, it says that she is, but.
I just muted her.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I'm wondering why we haven't included, the city money is only about half of our budget. We have a budget that's almost twice what the city gives us. So why are we not, maybe I'm missing it. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I don't see anything in here related to that. I see a little section about capital outlays, but that doesn't even say a whole lot. So is there any particular reason why we left out? We continue to prepare budgets that, well, we're a lot better now, actually. When we first got on this board, Dr. Joyner and I, when we finally did budgets, was just only the city side. We never saw the other side of the budget. We're starting to see that now in the documents that were given. We're not starting to, but are seeing that in the documents that were given by our current CFO. But there is nothing in this document that outlines how to manage that money either, or how to report and manage that money. I'm wondering why. Am I missing something? Through my quick cursory run through of it, Mr. Wilcox?
Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you. I'll just say that there's nothing in here that says it's exclusive, that we can only seek money from there. And in the policy 3000, which is the concept and roles in business and non-instructional operations, there is, we are telling the district that we, where was it? I just had it there. Number 3, explore all practical sources of dollar income. So it's very wide open in terms of where they can get the money, but there is some, my understanding is that also is state regulation for the money that we need. The city is ultimately responsible for it, and the city has to approve it. And so they are the ones that have to make up whatever shortfall there is and what the need is based on what the state or the federal government or other sources of income provide. So I would just say that it's not saying that it's exclusive to the city. There in the general comments, it does say should be exploring all areas of practical sources of dollar income. And so that's what I would say. Thank you.
I know that you've been working on this for a while. I think you've done a great job, you and the staff, on putting this together. I hope I'm going to vote for it, but I hope as a footnote for future reference that we maybe update this in the future to also discuss how we manage and report the other funding that we get. Because it took us a while to force the administration to finally start reporting to us what they were getting in grants and so on. We weren't getting that information for a very long time. We thought our budget was only half of what it was. We found there's a whole lot more money out there we were getting that we weren't getting reported on. So I hope as a footnote for the future, that whoever, whether it's you, Mr. Wilcox, as the chair of the finance committee or whoever, starts to think about amending this eventually to make sure that there's some clear parameters in place for how the board gets information related to the rest of our budget. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the 3000 series policies. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so that item passes. Finance and operations, Mr. Wilcox.
All right, thank you. So there'll be a couple motions here. One is I will be asking Dr. Yarborough if he chooses to move agreement number 3. It is with something to do with Quinnipiac University, where I am an employee of the university. As if anybody else needs things moved separately, please let me know. I will say that I do have an explanation about the change orders, which I know this is something that's always a concern as we work through those. So I will have an explanation on those when we get to those. So, but Dr. Yarborough, if you choose to, would you?
Yes. I move that we approve agreement number 3 with Quinnipiac University to provide 3 master's level student teaching interns for Fairhaven School.
Second.
Dr. Joyner, Dr. Yarborough, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve F&O item agreement number 3. Mr. Wilcox,
Recuse.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and that item passes.
All right, thank you. So I'll just provide a brief explanation on the purchase orders because in particular, one of them is a large increase. The committee, we did ask, these were presented by Mr. Gormany. We asked about the size of the increases for these food-related contracts, one of which is 140%. He went and confirmed with Mr. Sean Garris, the city's purchasing agent. There's an explanation based on this around let's see here, that this is from Mr. Garris, that the language in the city's procurement documents allow for unit price and quantities to fluctuate based on city needs. He provides an explanation which basically boils down to you need to make the case and have the purchasing agent approve and accept those increases. He would also, that person would be the one making the determination if something needed to go out to bid again. If for some reason something got through that did not go through that process, it won't get paid until it goes in front of them. So it's in the best interests of everybody to do that ahead of time, which staff is saying that they're now getting better at doing that. So with that explanation, is there anything else that anybody would like to move separately?
No.
I'm hearing and seeing nothing, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, and that is.
Mr. Gold, Mr.
Oh,
Golson has
sorry.
some.
Mr.
No,
Gold. my
No,
mistake.
no.
Nope, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion, and that is I move that we approve the 3 abstracts, the remaining 20 agreements, the 8 purchase orders, the 4 change orders, and the 1 healthy food certification as recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough, Mr. Wilcox, Mr. Golson.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a real problem with these change orders. Everybody knows I have a real problem with these change orders. Any change order that has a more than 20% change, for me is, I mean, we have rules, we have bids, we have, I mean, people, we have a process that's supposed to be fair for everyone. It's supposed to be, it is supposed to save this district money in the long run. When we put out these bids, people put their low bids in, and then we find out later on that the lower bidder is increasing their contract by 140%. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of cheese. I sure like to know. I personally don't like cheese, so I would vote against this just because. But I'm going to vote for these today. But I got to tell you, I'm not in the future. This is the last one that I'm going to vote for. That's more than 20%. Unless the explanation is really, really good. That explanation I heard wasn't really, really good. At the end of the day, it cheats our students, it cheats our taxpayers when we have a process in place to use, and then we circumvent that process with these change orders. Why even have the process? Why even have the bid? If we're going to come back 6 months later and increase it by 140%. So I'm going to vote today. Last time may not make a difference to anybody else, but it certainly makes a difference to me. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Dr. Joyner.
I'm not going to vote for it because I actually wrote most of the procurement policy. And Mr. Golson makes a point. It would be understandable if we got an explanation, but not given one. That's why we wrote the procurement policy. That's why it was passed unanimously by the board. So I won't be voting for this.
Thank you, Dr.
Be specific.
A point of order. Does that mean that Dr. Joyner wants to separate it out, or he's voting against the entire package?
It's now separated out. Separated out.
Mr.
We have a
Wilcox.
motion. You have a motion, so we have to change it.
Mhm.
So, a couple
Unless
things.
you give me an explanation, and I could change if I get an explanation.
Couple things. As a constant reminder to the board, Finance and Operations Committee meets typically on the 1st or 3rd Mondays of the month, unless there's a holiday or some reason like a Personnel Search Committee where we move it and have a special meeting, which is what occurred last week. The information's posted, the backup information's posted. People can then take a look to see if they have questions about it. And if they do, they ask the questions ahead of time. We're able to ask those questions in the meeting and get explanations from staff that we can distribute to the board ahead of time. You've had the information about this meeting since I believe Thursday afternoon. It's just more efficient. It's more respectful for everybody involved. If you actually take a look at the materials, ask those questions ahead of time, and then you could have that information because I could forward it to you. We could ask Mr. Garris or Mr. Gormany to provide that information. So again, doesn't take a lot of effort to take a look at the agendas in your meeting packets. That said, I'd like to amend my motion, and I'd like to move out the change orders from that motion.
Second, does that require a second?
Yes.
Yes.
So it actually requires the concurrence of the person who seconded the original motion.
I second.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. And so So the motion now is to vote for everything on the F&O items with the exception of the change orders.
And just to make it clear, because again, when I asked if we wanted to separate anything out, that would have been an ideal time, but to make it clear for the recording secretary so that she can do the job she's here to do. The motion now is for those 3 abstracts, the remaining 20 agreements, the 8 purchase orders, and the 1 healthy food certification.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Yarborough. Discussion, Mr. Golson,
No, my discussion is for the change order, so I'll wait till that motion is made.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes. I'm voting for the,
oh, no discussion, you're
No.
going ahead and vote, okay.
right.
All right, seeing no further discussion, Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes,
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Golson,
Yes,
Mayor Elicker,
Yes,
and I'm a yes as well. And that item passes. And now I'm guessing it's change orders. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes, I'm going to make another motion, and that is I move that we approve the 4 change orders as listed on our agenda.
Second.
seconded by you both. Who wants to take credit for the second?
Our mayor.
Mayor Elicker seconded the motion. Any discussion? Mr. Wilcox, you still have your hand up? Okay. Mr. Bolton?
see, Mr. Wilcox, he looks exhausted. I get it. I understand what you're going through, and I understand your frustration. You do every meeting suggest to us that we should be reviewing the agenda before we come to the meeting and asking those questions, which is the only reason why I'm going to be willing to vote on this tonight. Is because I didn't review the agenda, and I took into account what you say every meeting, and because I didn't do that, I'm willing to vote on it tonight. But I got to tell you, normally I wouldn't even because of that. Because the fact is, I can't see a good excuse for increasing your budget by $140,000 when you were low by 140,000%. Or was it 140%? 140% from what your low bid was. There's no excuse for that, quite frankly. And if there is a good excuse, then there should be a policy in place on how to fix that. And I understand the policy is if it's over 20, then there's some other things that you could do. I'm voting for it tonight only because I didn't raise these concerns sooner. But I'm only doing that tonight. Next time, I don't care how soon or late I raised them. I shouldn't have to be worried about it because they should know when you come with 140% increase, you better have a good explanation attached to that everybody could understand. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Dr. Benitez?
yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with this. My interpretation and why I don't have a problem is because my interpretation is that it was an increase in the cost is because we needed more than was original. That's what I understand from this increase. It's not increase of monies, but incur for an increase of bakery products, an increase of cheese products. In other words, because we may have anticipated a certain amount of money that we were going to use, but then realized that we needed more food or more whatever bakery. My understanding, and I'm going to vote yes on this, is because my understanding is not that they change, and I might be wrong. Remember, I'm a rookie. But my understanding is that we change what we purchase, so therefore we have to pay them more. That's my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Dr. Joyner?
I think we set a good precedent tonight that when there's an issue that people should call board members and let them know that there's an issue. And that way, even if they miss something in text, a call could have said, you know, it looks like we're gonna go outside the policy on this, and here's why. So I'm still gonna be voting no. I love Matt dearly. I don't want to create any additional grief for him, but the stuff that we had to go through to get the policy written in the first place was designed to eliminate stuff like this. And if we did have to do it, that there would be an explanation in a timely way to put the board on alert that this is technically a policy violation. However, we're doing it because of that. So a simple phone call, as indicated earlier about another matter, would have been sufficient to put people on alert, and then they could decide whether they want to do that or not. So I'm glad we set that precedent, so that going forward, whenever there are any red flags in anything, that we're expected to call each other, not make it a meeting, but at least to let each other know that there's some problems brewing that might be problematic in the upcoming meeting. So I'm voting no.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Wilcox and then Mr. Wilson.
So I just reviewed our policy 3323A, our core purchasing policy. I don't see any place where it addresses change orders. The policy in question is the city's procurement policy. I'll read this section from the email from Mr. Garris when the committee asked for explanation on this, and Mr. Gormley provided one. The language, because I don't want to misconstrue it, and I don't want to make it sound like people are going against the city policy when we're following the city policy. And let me explain. Mr. Garris writes, the language found in the city's procurement documents allow for unit price and quantities to fluctuate based on city needs or supply and field conditions. Typically, the adjustment for price and scope of work are done through a change order. The change order as a process is adopted and implemented through policy established by the purchasing agent in conjunction with the controller of the city of New Haven. Under current city's change order policy, a change order that exceeds the 20% limitation shall not be performed or purchases made until justification is made and accepted by the purchasing agent and change order committee. From Mr. Gormley, thank you, Sean. Based on your interpretation, food service has unique food contracts where quantities are estimated at the beginning of the year with the understanding that they may change. The kids love cheese. I'm sorry, that was editorial. The understanding that purchasing and food contracts may fluctuate the year based on the school menu, food product availability, and other factors serving NHPS students. I'd like to see you all set a budget for your groceries, last May, and stick to it today. Food service contract change orders may be the same as original value or exceed the original value based on usage of the food product. Please let me know if you concur. Mr. Garris responds correct. So the committee asked for an explanation, asked for it to be double checked. Mr. Gormley double checked it with the purchasing agent. We got the answer. I presented it to you. If you would have asked the question ahead of time, I would have provided it ahead of time so that we could have saved the half hour in this meeting. So just to finalize, we don't have a purchase order policy that I'm aware of in Series 3000, and I'm pretty familiar with them. If somebody knows of one, please let me know where. And second, we followed the city's policy where we asked the question and received approval from the purchasing agent of the city. So moving forward, I'm more than happy to do whatever we can to codify this, set our own purchase order policies, whatever you all want. I just would prefer it doesn't happen on a Monday night during a full board meeting because there's just no reason for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Goldson and then Dr. Joyner.
Thank you, Madam President. In response to Mr. Wilcox, I do set my budget at home, and I don't go past the budget unless I get extra money. I don't have a choice. I mean, I can't spend money I don't have. I can't make up money, and I can't deficit spend. That's just a fact. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to pay the taxes, Mr. Mayor, and there are other costs that I have. And once I get to those costs, if I don't have any extra money, I can't buy extra cheese. That's just a fact. The fact that there's a 140% increase, I don't think there's a 140% increase in the number of kids that are in the school. And if the demand for it is increasing, then we need to cut something somewhere else. I just don't understand. But again, I'm voting for it tonight because I didn't raise these questions earlier. But I do have one question: who is on the change order committee? I mean, since this affects our budget, I hope that we have a representative on that committee. I've never heard of it before. I don't think I've ever seen it in any documents, in any of our policy documents. So who is the change order committee? And should the president be making appointments to that, or the superintendent, or somebody? Do you know, Mr. Wilcox, who that committee is? Who's made up of?
Oh, no.
Who the president?
Mr. Wilcox, you were gonna respond?
If I may, we are the change order committee for the Board of Education because we approve change orders through here. If we approve something that doesn't meet the requirements of the city will not be allowed to pay it because it's reviewed by the purchasing agent. So that's why some things get held up. So again, we are the ones for this, for the city. I mean, it's the Board of Education is the ones that are approving change orders, which is why it's listed on our agenda tonight as a change order.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Dr. Joyner?
I think I'm getting a better understanding of Mr. Wilcox's point. It looks like there was no increase in the unit cost. Let me know when I'm wrong, but there was an increase in the volume of units that we purchased. That's what it sounds like to me. But
again, if you'll recall, for our large food contracts, we approve those. We'll be approving many of them in the coming month. That'll set up the food prices for the year. It's based on a best guess of what's going to be used. It changes based on food prices. If you set your budget a year ago and decided how much cheese you were going to buy, if 19,000 students decide they're going to eat a lot of cheese this year, you might need more cheese. So you would come and ask for a change order in order to approve expenditure on that. As a reminder, the food service budget is a separate budget.
You answered my question.
We will have at our next meeting a report on where we are with the food service budget. I'm assuming that the food service director and Mr. Gormany, who have always been keeping us in budget, will be able to do so again. But I will provide that information next time so that we can make sure we can afford the cheese.
Yeah, you answered my question. I just think that if that's the case, that we should revisit our procurement policy and have as much in there as possible that might preempt a long discussion like we've had tonight. But I think it's a legitimate discussion because people are looking for us to be fiscally responsible.
That was cheesy.
And you are, and you are by far the best financial committee chair we've had, in my humble opinion. So I applaud you for all of this, but I also applaud anyone who would challenge it as well. That's the only way. That's the messiness of democracy. So thank you very much, and it's a great lesson in stoicism under duress, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Wilcox?
If I may, I am sorry, I'm sounding frustrated and short. I'm dealing with a very stressful family situation, so that adds to it.
Absolutely.
I welcome the Finance and Operations Committee welcomes all challenges, all questions, all clarifications. We are working to get that information to the board so everybody can make informed decisions. I'm just requesting that as we move forward, you all help us out as well so that we can get that information to you, because but again, I'm sounding short tonight and frustrated.
It's okay.
But it's not because there's question. It's not that I or the committee or anybody's being questioned. It's a bunch of other things, and it's just more efficient use of our time. If we can get those questions ahead of time, then we can get you the answers so that you know what you need to know.
Matt, you're one of the best human beings I know, period. And I know a lot of human beings. So I'll let it rest on that.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll go on the F&O change orders. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes, I changed my mind.
Mr. Golson,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so those items pass.
And I'm just going to apologize now. I'm going to have to go, but I wish you all a lovely second half of your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Wilcox.
It was
Good
a
luck.
third, not a half.
Mm-hmm.
All right, students report, there are no students. So moving on to teaching and learning.
Okay, this is going to be brief. We haven't been able to have full-scale TL committee reports because of all the special meetings we've had and also people being out. But I want to call your attention to a handout. It's an article in the New Haven Independent called Civic Scholars Prep for Nationals. And I'm just going to go over briefly why I think that's really important. What those students are doing to prepare for the national finals of a Constitution Folks competition in Washington, D.C. is really what the best of education is all about. And I want to give a shout out to the teachers, Brian Grindrod, Lisa Chester, and Administrator Garfield Pilner, and the principal, Matt Brown. I talked to Matt at the Wilbur Cross Alumni Hall of Fame dinner, and we talked about that, and also to our own Dave Bustamante. These kids use Socratic inquiry to get at some questions that many of our elected officials in Washington, D.C. have not wrestled with. And Socratic inquiry is probably the most powerful teaching model. In fact, a philosophy died because of his use of it. And it leads me to believe, based on my own children's education, my grandchildren's education, my great nieces and nephews' education, that New Haven is probably the best school system in the state for students who desire an education that opens rather than closes their minds. And when you look at what's going on in certain states, I won't name them, but they have a really nice amusement park, that what these kids are doing at Cross and at Hill House and at Career and at Metropolitan and all of our schools is that they're learning to use their minds. And in this specific case, they're using the American Constitution and raising really big questions about the Constitution that plenty of people who are senators and members of the House of Representatives don't seem to understand. And this is not the first time that New Haven students have distinguished themselves in such a venue. They'll get a chance to go to Washington, D.C. They will be able to debate. And in the past, going back to the 70s and 80s, students from Hill House and Cross routinely won state mock trial competition. And that's the kind of education that we will have to bring back to all of our schools, all of our classrooms. And I'm hoping that as things go forward, we can focus more on teaching and learning, language development, free thinking, as well as the activism that should follow what one learns about the Constitution. So I want to give a special shout out to Dave and his fellow students and the teachers at Cross and the administrators at Cross who support this type of education. That concludes my report.
Dr. Joyner, questions or comments for Dr. Joyner? Seeing none. I'm not sure if you hear background noise on my end. I apologize for that. Like I said, I'm having my roof done and the workers are still here and listening to very loud music.
No, we don't hear anything.
My neighbor's not going to be happy. Facilities naming committee. Dr. Joyner?
No, nothing here. I'm working on trying to develop a checklist for people who want to name something, either a building or structured within a building after someone. They do have the policy, but we need to have administrative procedures and steps so it's easy for people who want to do that to know what they have to do in order to get it to the board. So I'm working on that.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Goldson, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, just a quick question, Dr. Joyner. I know that he was working on a proposal for Dr. Garris. Did I miss that vote?
You know, here's the thing. What people don't understand is that it's not something the board does. It's something that they bring to the board, which means that they have to get signatures. They have to make sure that they have enough money to pay for any type of emblem, and that also has to be approved as well. So the ball is in their court once they get to start. If you remember, Darnell, when the people want to do the Obama Bridge, we told them that they had to raise money. Right. That we're not going to pay for the sign. They have to pay for the sign. Then we'd have to approve the sign because we can't just have people putting any kind of sign on our buildings. And so what I see missing, and it really should be done on the administrative side, that there should be a checklist of things that people have to do in order to follow the policy. We create the broad policy, and then the staff that's paid full time writes the administrative procedures that actually actualize the policy.
So the short answer is that hasn't happened yet.
No, it hasn't.
You missed the vote.
You haven't missed the vote. It hasn't happened.
Bring it back.
You know, we're part-time policy makers, and we have full-time staff that should put that policy into a language that people can understand and execute.
Okay.
So the short answer is no.
Yeah, but it requires a long answer. If you just say no without explanation.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner.
You're welcome.
Dr. Joyner, Mr. Goldson. Superintendent's report. Did Dr. Tracy appoint anyone to give the report?
Not that I'm aware of, but she's still not back.
Okay.
No.
So there may not be a report right now.
Sounds good. We can give it next time, I guess. For the president's report, I'll just say that the Personal Search Committee has completed the superintendent interviews and debriefing, taking into account the stakeholder input. And we expect that we may be voting on the new superintendent next week. I'll be polling the board for possible dates for a special meeting to be held next week at some point. I'm thinking Tuesday or Wednesday, but I'll reach out to you all. Head Start report, Mr. Wilcox. Guessing he'll give a report when he is back next time. City School Building, also Mr. Wilcox. So we'll go into governance report, Dr. Benitez.
Yes, we have met and have reviewed Series 3000 and have make sure that you receive the information. We also are continue to work on Series 6000, and we should be submitting something to the board for the beginning of May meeting. Thank
Questions or comments for Dr. Benitez? Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Food Service Task Group report, Dr. Yarborough.
Thank you. There's no report. The task force will meet this coming month.
Okay, and with that,
move.
motion to adjourn. Okay, we'll vote to adjourn. Mr. Wilcox gone. Dr. Joyner. Dr. Joyner. Dr. Benitez.
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough.
Yes.
Mr. Goldson.
Yes.
Mayor Elicker.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. And so that item passes. Thank you all and good